So now that we've had a little conversation about what science is, let's talk a little bit about some of the techniques that we can gather data in science. So one of the categories of research is called descriptive research. And as we can see, this descriptive research diagram shows us that there's two main types of descriptive research: correlational research and observational research. But in the realm of observational research, we can see naturalistic case studies, archival surveys, interviews, all kinds of different ways. So you can kind of see an overview when I say descriptive. But what descriptive methods have in common is that there's no random assignment. You're not manipulating anything. We're going to talk about the independent variables and the dependent variables, but there is no independent variable. You're not manipulating anything. You're not controlling these things. You're just going out there and looking and describing what's there. If you recall, the four goals of science were to describe, explain, predict, and control. Descriptive methods can allow us to describe and explain, potentially predict depending on which angle we go down, but never control. That fourth one, which we said is the key goal to science, improving the world, is not possible with descriptive methods. But describe, explain, and predict have value in and of themselves, but never control. Okay? Turns out that they're often pretty cheap, right? You can often just go out there, because you're just describing what's already happening. Sometimes the data is already sitting there waiting for you to look at it. Maybe the U.S. Census Bureau has gathered all the data and it's sitting in a database somewhere, and it's just you pulling out the data. So it can be cheap. It can be inexpensive. It can be a good place to start for your generating a theory. Theories can't come from nowhere. They have to have something. Remember, a theory is a tentative explanation for the observations that have been made. You have to have some observations feeding into the system before you can have a theory, and where are they going to come from? Okay. So, as we said, within the world of descriptive research, the one of the branches is observational research, and it can come in lots of different forms, right? So, naturalistic observation is to go out and look at behavior in its natural settings. Just look. The most famous of all of the naturalistic observational studies was Jane Goodall, who wanted to understand the behavior of chimpanzees at the zoo, and what she found was that she wanted to understand the behavior of chimpanzees. So she goes to the London Zoo, and she finds that the behaviors of these animals in the zoo is just crazy, not normal, weird. So she goes up to Tanzania in West Africa, and East Africa, and she realizes that when she tries to observe these chimpanzees, they're simply reacting to her presence. They're reacting to her being there, okay? So she sits there for 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, until nobody notices her anymore. The monkeys there just don't even see her. So she's using what they call unobtrusive observation, okay? But you can be a participant observation. An IO psychologist that wants to truly understand a factory can get a job for a couple of months, blend in, see what's happening, figure out what the social dynamics are, and then come out and use that work. Case studies are the idea that in generally observational research, if you're observing hundreds of people, you can't observe details, a lot of details. So a case study is an observational study where you look at one or just a very few, but you observe them with huge details. You just all everywhere. It can be useful, but you got to be careful because every case is unique. And so what happens is if you do a case study and you come up with a description of everything, be careful that you do not generalize your findings to anybody outside of this case that you have just studied. Okay? Archival research is like descriptive research. It is descriptive research, a form of observational research, rather, where you're not observing the behavior per se. You're simply pulling out the data that already exists. Okay? Questionnaires obviously are a simple way for you to say, can you make an observation of yourself? That's why it falls into the category of observational research. And it's again fairly quick, fairly easy. You can access using the internet now. You can use questionnaires and access many people at the same time. But you always got to be careful because sometimes people tell you what they want you to hear rather than the truth, right? So there's lots of issues, and sometimes a very specific type of person completes questionnaires and another type of person does not. So you got to be careful with what you get, all right? So clearly, using the internet for surveys is quicker. They can do it anytime that is convenient for them. You can capture, you can get all kinds of different things online nowadays. I personally use Amazon MTurk. I'm still using Amazon MTurk as a way to gather large quantities of data relatively quickly. Okay? Interviews are observational research, but one in which the interviewer goes in. So it's very similar to a questionnaire, but the interviewer goes in with a set of questions. And unlike a standard questionnaire, the interviewer can modify the questions being asked on the fly. Okay, so if there was a particularly interesting answer in a traditional questionnaire, you're never going to find that person again. You have no idea where that came from. But in an interview, you can clearly, get a better response. Okay. And then the final second part. Remember, we're talking about descriptive method. Descriptive research has observational and correlational, and we're going to expand on correlational moving forward. But for now, correlational research, you're going to simply measure two or more things. Predictors and criterion. All right, these words are going to be coming back on us many times. We measure a predictor and use it to make a prediction about a criterion. Okay, so you could use years of previous experience as a predictor to predict how successful a new employee will be, a criterion. Okay, so clearly when we get to this, in particular, the selection decisions portion of this course, predictors and criterion will be just dominating the conversation. Okay? All right. We'll see you in the next section.